Hola a todos, bienvenidos al primer episodio de Len Gringos Podcast. Estoy aquí con mi gran amigo, mi gran compañero, Derek. Now, don't worry, guys. I promise you, I'm not going to do this whole podcast in Spanish. Your heart probably dropped. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to start it off in Spanish. Derek, how are we doing, man?
Doing pretty good. You had me worried there. You had me worried, but no,
I had
we'll
you
be
worried?
speaking completely in English here.
Yep. We're going to do this podcast in English. We're super excited to be here. First ever episode. It's our pilot episode. We're going to be getting into a little bit about ourselves, who we are, our experience with languages, why we started this podcast, the history behind it, our goals with this podcast, and also it's going to lead into our first topic of our first episode, which is the monolingual states of America. You guys are probably all wondering, what in the world are we talking about? Just wait and see. Really interesting stuff. We're super excited to dive right deep into it. So Derek, why don't you start us off just a little bit about who you are, what your work status is, what your experiences with languages, where you grew up, your background, etc.
I'm gonna forget. No, I'm just kidding. Hello, everyone. My name is Derek. I am almost 23, so that means I'm 22. In case anyone's mathematically challenged, happens. Let's see. I was born in Brazil, in São Paulo, Brazil. My mom's from there. My whole mom's side of the family is from Brazil, originally from Italy, but given a generation or two in Brazil. My dad's side is mostly from the U.S., given several generations there. So yeah, and I lived in Brazil until I was about 7. And then when we were 7, or when I was 7, the rest of my family was older than 7. We moved to the US. We came to San Diego, and that is where I met my good friend Nick. He'll share a little bit more about that in a second here. But yeah, I grew up speaking Portuguese and English. I always spoke to my dad in English, and I always spoke to my mom in Portuguese. So despite living in Brazil for the first 7 years of my life, when I showed up in the US, my English was pretty much how it is now. I mean, of course, it was a little dumbed down because I was 7, but it was completely normal for a 7-year-old. And then when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, I started studying Spanish, and that was because of my mom, because she's always been, I guess, very intrigued and interested and values languages very highly. And she says, you live in Southern California, you're going to learn Spanish. And I was like, but mom, I speak Portuguese. Isn't that close enough? She's like, it's close, but you're going to learn Spanish. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of went along with it. Never really thought much of the Spanish classes. I was good at them. They were relatively easy. I was better than most of my peers, I guess. I guess it just came more naturally or whatever because of Portuguese. And that was pretty much it. I didn't ever spend any time outside of Spanish class doing anything in Spanish, never spoke to anyone in Spanish, nothing like that, until I got to college. And in my first 2 years in college, I quickly realized that I didn't really have that Spanish level that I had, because I graduated high school and I'd gone from Spanish 1 all the way through AP Spanish, taking the AP exam and everything like that. And in my eyes, I was fluent, right? And then you get to college, and I had a lot of friends that were from other parts of Latin America, and I couldn't really have like a conversation with them unless it was very basic and elementary level stuff. So that kind of led me to this realization. And naturally, as one does, I decided that the only solution to that was to go to Spain for a semester. So I had a semester in Madrid. And ever since I got back from there a little over 2 years ago, I've just been studying Spanish on my own, like all on my own account, and just kind of self-taught. And it's been really, really fun. And I've progressed a lot more than I did in probably the 4 years of high school Spanish. But yeah, that's enough for me. Nick, let's hear it, buddy.
I'm going to try and follow that up. I don't think I can do that good of an intro, man. You knocked that one out of the park, but see if I
Thanks.
can give it my best go. Just a little bit about myself. Obviously, my name is Nick. I am a third-year student here at Michigan State. I am studying Spanish and psychology with a minor in leadership of organizations. And I grew up in San Diego as well. As Derek stated, that's how we met. However, despite him growing up in Brazil and growing up in another country, I am born and raised in the suburbs of San Diego. So I grew up about an hour from the Mexican border. However, nobody in my family spoke Spanish. Nobody really spoke any other languages. My grandparents immigrated from Belgium, so they spoke Flemish, and I still have family in Belgium who speaks Flemish because they live there, obviously. But other than that, nobody in my family really speaks any other languages. I didn't really have any exposure to that growing up. However, like I said, growing up close to Mexico, there was obviously a huge Mexican influence and also Latino influence because there are a lot of other people from all different parts of Central and South America. And I don't know, as growing up, I was always really fascinated with their culture, with the food, the traditions, and always just like growing up and, seeing street names in Spanish, seeing signs in Spanish, hearing people speaking it. And I always identified from a young age that, you know what, one day I'm going to speak this language. One day I'm going to be able to do it. So I think I was 12 years old when I first started learning it. I had the opportunity to start in middle school instead of taking another elective like, drama or broadcasting art, which are, supposed to be fun classes. There was kind of that negative thought about Spanish, and I had it in my head too. I was like, I don't know if I want to have an elective where I got more homework, but I was like, you know what? I've wanted to do it for a while. I'm just going to see what happens. And I fell in love with it. And I loved my classes. It was super fun. I started learning first couple years. And I wish I could tell you guys that after that, it was this piece of cake and I became fluent and I was able to talk with everybody and just be the greatest Spanish speaking gringo that the world has ever seen. But that was definitely not the case. I continued to take classes through high school and into college as well. And obviously I thought at those times that, I'm pretty close to being fluent. I'll get there one day. I'll get there one day. And year after year, just, I kept pushing with my studies until one day I realized that, how can I be doing so well in classes, but I can't speak it? I still can't do anything with it. And so that's when I reached out to Derek because I knew he had obviously language experience. He was learning Spanish himself. And that's when he essentially told me, like, all you got to do is just immerse yourself in the language. And this will be a whole separate episode of how to live your daily life in that language that you're trying to learn. But essentially, what I did and what I realized was, in order to learn Spanish, you can't just be in the classroom and study books and study vocab and, learn grammar. You got to go out and actually do it. And stepping outside of the classroom and into the world and talking with natives, watching shows, listening to content, all in that target native language that you're trying to learn was completely life-changing, completely changed my life. It made me add Spanish as my second major. It made me identify what I want to do after I graduate. And it was just completely life-changing. Now, that passion that we both have, Derek and I, we've been able to share this for a while. Obviously, we've known each other for a very long time. We met, oh my gosh, it's probably been at least 10 years.
Yeah, 10, 12, something like
that. Yeah,
we've
known each other a very, very long time. We go way back. But now we, being able to share something that we're really passionate about, something that's changed our lives with each other has been absolutely special. And Derek, I'll kind of let you get into this segment as far as why we started this podcast. I know I kind of feeding you a little bit into it, but why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Sure. Yeah, so we started this originally. So Nick and I started having all these conversations about what he could do, right, to study Spanish. And I guess he was trying to pick my brain about it, right? Because I don't want to sound like I'd make this groundbreaking discovery. But I found a method that worked really well. And I'm not saying I invented it or anything like that. I stole it from YouTube, like all great things, YouTube University. And yeah, but I just personalized it myself and I was able to share it with one of my best friends, and yeah, we were just sending audio messages back and forth. And I think we started with a joke that if we sent like an audio message over a minute long, and it's like, oh, that's not an audio message, that's the podcast, right? And then one day we're like, oh, well, we're having all these great ideas. It's like, we should make a podcast out of it. It's like, yeah, we should. That'd be so funny. And then like probably the next day or something, we were like, hey, maybe we should actually, right? Because we felt like we were having important conversations and meaningful conversations that should be shared, right? So I guess that's kind of a bit of how it started, right? I guess if you want to get into the I guess our reasoning behind why we're making this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Our story behind this, it's definitely interesting. Like Derek talked about, with our audio messages, that these were like video essays, podcasts in themselves. Like, most voice messages between people, like, hey, how's it going? You want to hang out? Like, what's going on? Ours was like you also like you hear about like, you know what the difference between a heritage and a native speaker is? This like stuff over Snapchat like that. And it was just, I don't know, it would always be the greatest conversations that we still have. But we realized we got to put this out there somewhere. And we want to be the people to inspire others to learn other languages because they've been so life-changing for us. And we want other people to experience the same joy that we have and just have these same life-changing experiences. And also just being able to share our experiences and put them out there as well too, because we've had so many unbelievable ones, and just being able to talk about them and share them with other people. And we don't want to brag, we don't want to say that we're special or anything, but kind of like Derek talked about, we feel like we didn't discover Spanish per se, but we feel like anything that's
No,
like,
we invented the Spanish language. Forget everything else.
bro, why did you tell them? Why did you tell everybody?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it didn't originate in what is it, Castilla y Leon? No, it's from us.
No, yeah.
We created the language itself, but
Oh
anyways,
man.
our main goals, as we said earlier, is just obviously to inspire others to learn a language. And we're going to be talking a lot about Spanish because that's our own personal experiences. But this applies for any language. If you want to go learn Mandarin, if you want to go learn Italian, if you want to go learn a native Nigerian language that's only spoken in a specific region of Nigeria, it doesn't matter what it is. Learning any language is completely life-changing. It changes your perspective on the world. It changes everything about your life, and it completely opens up your mind and your eyes to so many different amazing and beautiful things. So that's our main reason behind it. And our main goal, I say our number one overall goal, is just to inspire one person. We're not trying to go change the world single-handedly, which, maybe we could, Derek. No, I'm kidding. But
Never know.
never know. But no, we just want to inspire one person, and just get our experiences out there and hopefully change their lives for the better. And we also want to provide some tips for language learning, just to make it easier on you all. If you've already been inspired and you're listening to this podcast and you want to hear some tips, we're going to be providing those to make that process a little bit easier. And like I said earlier, to share our experiences. So those are our three main goals with this podcast. Derek, you want to take us into what we're going to cover on this show?
Yeah. So again, a little bit not repetitive, but I guess repeating, but more explaining some of the things. We're going to be covering language learning tips, right? So how to immerse yourself from home, choosing and finding a language partner. You may be asking, what is a language partner? That is simply someone that speaks your target language, the language you're trying to learn. And you do what's called a language exchange. So I, for example, would speak to someone from Mexico, and I could help them with English and they would help me with Spanish. That would be called a language exchange. That would be my language partner. Nick and I both have several language partners that I would consider friends at this point now. What apps you should be using? not Duolingo. Sorry.
Are you okay, man? Are you coughing?
No, sorry. Yeah, just something was in my throat. And then maybe seeking out opportunities in your community. The amount of time each day you should spend. That's always a good one. Also myths and misconceptions of language learning. I don't know if you want to add anything else here, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have one on just the benefits of learning another language, which I feel like we probably already said, but we're gonna go way in depth. You guys are probably gonna get annoyed with us because we're gonna be super passionate about these episodes, and we're gonna spill our heart out. It's an open heart session, I would say. We're just going to spill it all out there, and you're going to visually and auditorily, that's a word, hear our passion just come out. We're just making up words, man. That further proof we came up with the Spanish language, didn't we? It just cements it. Anyways, benefits of learning another language. We're going to be, like I said, interviewing a lot of guests from around the globe and so much more. We have so much cool stuff to be talking about. I think everyone's really going to enjoy what we have to say. And, if you don't really want to learn another language, if we don't do a job, or if you're not inspired by it, then no worries at all. The show might not be for you, but we're just going to be putting our experiences out there and hopefully inspiring one of you guys to go out there and learn another language and see that impact that it has in your life, because we want you all to experience that joy.
So that pretty much wraps up, I guess, our introduction, right? That was pretty much our main things, our main highlights, what to expect from this podcast.